Okay, this will be the last lesson in part one, lesson five. Part one, lesson five, topic A. So some of the objectives. As promised, we're going to find out what the critical path is and why it's so important that we optimize it. We're going to do some work with the baseline, and also we're going to share the project with stakeholders and other people. Okay, let's optimize our plan now. So first thing I like to do is I'm going to go up here and says where it says tell me what you want to do. I'm going to type in highlight critical path, and we'll talk about what a critical path is here in a few seconds. But the just click on that and just hit enter. And what it'll do is it'll turn the critical path into red. I'm going to go back and use the My Woods 3-bedroom home project task file that we had before. Now I'll show you what happens after we highlighted the critical path. First thing I want to point out is that after we highlighted the critical path, some of these tasks turned to red. Now what that means is that these tasks, if you look at the overall project, if we miss the duration, take a little bit longer than we're supposed to on any of these tasks, it's going to extend the project itself out sometimes. It's going to delay the completion of this project. So these are critical. This is the definition of critical. If we don't hit the deadlines on these critical tasks, we're going to miss the deadline on our project. That's why they're called critical path. And you can also see that we've also got some non-critical tasks. These are tasks that are where if we miss the deadline, it's not good, but it's not going to affect the overall project duration unless it lasts excessively long. So these are non-critical. Also, if you look at those lines above it, that's where we did some resource leveling. And also you can see that we still have some burning men on this view. So even though we got the critical path, we still have some issues with the resources being over allocated. But these are non-critical paths, the blue, resource leveling, and also over allocation icons. There's another view that would also show us the critical path, and that's the network diagram. So if you go over where the Gantt chart is, right click, you'll see the network diagram. Just click on that. You can also go to the view and use the tab for that, but network diagram. And when you click on network diagram, this is what pops up. We're not going to spend much time discussing this yet, but you can see what's happening. I'll let you look at it yourself. Go ahead and click on network diagram. Take a look, and you can see the information that comes up. Again, red are the critical path tasks, and blue are the ones that aren't critical. So let's say we wanted to optimize a project, and we do. By optimize, we mean actually shorten the duration, time is money kind of thing, or reduce the cost associated with doing the project. All this is optimizing. We've got several ways we can do that. Let's say we want to shorten the critical path. The first method might be adding resources. And for an example, in a mill, right, I'm going to do a changeover. Maintenance doesn't have to do everything, right? They could, they can take the nuts off. They fly out the mills, the tensioners, and all that other stuff. What they could do is add resources, and we actually did this in practice. We taught the operators who were basically just standing around while the maintenance guys worked. Actually taught them how to remove the nuts and gave them the tools to remove some nuts so they could fly out the different mills. That's adding resources. The next one is refining dependencies. Going back to the project in the book, maybe we don't need to wait until the carpeting and the tile is in the house before Gary Clark gets started on the landscaping. Maybe that's not a dependency. Maybe we need to redefine that. And then you can start doing Gary Clark stuff in parallel with the other things and get the project done. Whatever time Gary is going to do after that, all of a sudden goes away. It's done the same time as the carpeting's coming in. So you're shortening the critical path and by redefining the critical path. Reassigning task, maybe Gary Clark doesn't need to be the one building the compost bin. After all, we got some framers up there that aren't doing anything basically. Maybe they could do it. So let's assign building the compost bin to the framers. And that frees up Gary Clark to do his other things. And the critical path gets shorter. Another way you could do it is just by removing tasks. Is that task really necessary? And I'm going to go back to the changeover. One of the tasks they had was mopping the floor. They file the old the mill, and then what they'll do is they come in and they sweep and mop the floor. Then you have to wait for it to dry. Well, they got to thinking about it. Maybe we don't need to mop. Maybe if we just get some dry sweep it. We don't have to wait for this thing to dry. Reduce some time. Reducing scope. Let's say you're going to change over a slitter, right? So you got remove slitter, and then you got install the new slitters. You might want to divide that up into two tasks, right? Instead of having one task, remove slitters, install new slitters. If you do that, then you can do the remove slitters. Oh, okay, that's the operator's job. You can reduce the critical path that way. And again, you want to optimize resource usage. If you got some resources, especially people or tools or whatever, and they're not being used, find some work for them. They could help, and see if they can help on the red line, the critical path, and see if you can balance work across resources and shorten that critical path up a bit. And you want to minimize, again, optimization is not just time, it's also cost. So let's use a hospital example. This is actually a true case. Surgeons used to go in there and the patient just before the operation, and he'd be standing around waiting for the anesthetist to get done and the patient be prepped. Well, they found that he didn't have to be there really, right? So what he could do then is he could have somebody else do all the prep work, come in when the patient was ready, do whatever he had to do, and leave and move on. Cut his time in half. You can get twice the operations in the same amount of time. You want to minimize expensive resources. So effort-driven tasks, these are tasks that have a set amount of work, no matter how much resources you throw at it. So for example, Gary Clark's supposed to plant some trees and things. If you want to do that faster, you could throw more resources at it, 20 more people at it, and the trees will get planted faster. But there are other tasks that aren't effort-driven tasks. Say you're going to change over the slitter. It's a 2-3 man job. You want to get it done faster, you could throw 100 people at it, and what you'd have are 2 or 3 people working and 97 people standing around watching. It's not effort-driven. It's a resource-driven. Um, Effort-driven tasks. These are tasks where you can So what is duration? Duration is basically how long a task is going to take. Work is the amount of effort it's going to take to finish that task. So let's say I've got Gary Clark. I say, hey, you spend 50% of your time working on the lawn, 50% of the time planting trees. If I wanted to shorten the duration, I said, okay, Gary, you spend 100% of your time doing the lawn, and we'll assign somebody else. They can do the trees. You should be able to cut the amount of duration in half. Same amount of effort, just split up amongst different resources. It's a subtle difference, but it's a difference still. It should be kind of like common sense. Okay, in the data files, let's open up Woods 3-bedroom home project optimization. Okay, in the Gantt chart view, we're going to go to the View tab. I'm going to go to this drop-down box where it says No Highlights, and I'm just going to click on Critical. Now you'll see that the critical tasks are all highlighted. And also, if you go into the Format tab, you'll see this little box that says Critical Task. Check that. So this is what we got. We got the critical path in red, and then we got the tasks that are critical highlighted. So these are the ones we have to do what we say we're going to do, or we're going to extend the project time. These are the critical tasks. Okay, let's add some resources to a task. In this case, it's the concrete contractor. So we're just going to go back to the resource sheet up here. And on the max units, I'm going to add 200%. So I'm going to basically double the units. Okay, now I'm going to highlight these 4 tasks, 23, 24, 26, and 27. Okay, I'm going to go up here to Assign Resources. Okay, I'm changing the units in the Assign Resources dialog box to 200%. And you can see that that resource is now 200%. And the length of time to do these tasks has been cut in half. That's what 200%. Basically, I'm doubling the resources on this. So we get it done twice as fast. And you can see on critical task number 55 that the concrete contractor is there also. So we're going to just change that over to 200% also. Now what we've done is we changed the contractor to 200% on tasks 55 and 106. I didn't go through it step by step, but it's the same way as before. See if you can do this. If you have any troubles, give me a call or let me know. But 55 and 106, when you're done, should have the contractor 200% on both these critical tasks. It should shorten up our project time. Okay, we're going to revise the length of a critical task. We're going to do that, demonstrate how to do that on task number 2. Now, if we double click on the finalize plans and develop estimate with the owner architect, then the dialog box will come up. The task information dialog box will come up. We're going to click on the advanced tab. We're going to uncheck effort driven. And we're going to change the duration to 10 days, half the time. You can see what happens both in the task itself and in the project and the length of time. Again, we're working with the critical path, so we shorten any of these tasks in the critical path, we shorten the overall project time. Okay, now let's reassign some tasks. Let's go down and look at 6, 8, and 9. It's got a little Burning Man, which means we overallocated our resources. So we're going to fix that. Again, in this Assign Resources box, I'm just going to click on that. So what I did is I removed Gary Clark and added Volunteer 4. So this task now belongs to Volunteer 4 instead of Gary Clark. And we lost our Burning Man, which means we're not over allocated. And you can see Gary Clark's been replaced by Volunteer 4. Okay, let's change the dependency. And we're going to be working with task 107. Okay, I'm just going to uncheck 104, install appliances. You don't need to install appliances to install the backyard fence. And you can see all of a sudden 104 goes away. 106 is the only task. Check out the critical path and when the project completes. Both are being shortened. Now just save your file to My Woods 3-bedroom home project, optimize.mpp, and we'll see you in topic B.